Today, we're diving deep. We're not just talking about an actor, we're deconstructing the entire system, the architecture really, behind the transformative power of a true master of the craft, Christian Bale.
Okay, so let's really get into this because this one idea, it's everything. It is the key, the blueprint for understanding one of the most, truly radical artists of our time. Think about what this is saying. It's a philosophy that argues your personality, your sense of self isn't some sacred thing. No, it's the first obstacle you have to get out of the way to do something great. It's this belief that who you are right now is way less important than who you can become when the challenge demands.
And here, wow, what you're looking at is it's almost impossible, right? This isn't just a diet. This is a philosophy made real. It's physical proof of his entire system in action. Think about this. In just 6 months, he goes from a walking skeleton for the Machinist, living on basically an apple and a can of tuna a day, to the powerhouse that was Batman. Can you even imagine what that felt like? The constant hunger, that mental fog you get from starving, and then, boom, a complete 180 to just gorging yourself and training like a maniac. This was a deliberate, systematic erasure of his own biology, followed by a total architectural rebuild. He was proving, in the most gut-punching way possible, that the self isn't fixed. It's just raw material, something you can break down and forge into whatever you need it to be.
All right, so here's how we're going to break this all down today. First, we'll look at the radical idea that started it all. Then we'll jump back to his youth, this outsider's forge where his whole mindset was created. After that, we'll get into his core philosophy, see the system, the Bale Protocol in action, and then talk about how he completely reshaped Hollywood. And stick around, because at the end, we're going to talk about how you can use this transformation code yourself.
Okay, so let's be super clear here. This crazy transformation, it wasn't a stunt, not at all. It was a statement, a declaration of intent. This was the exact moment he decided to weaponize his own identity. He started treating his body, his mind, not as who I am, but as tools, resources he could use to serve the story.
And that phrase, the vanishing point, that's everything. You got to understand this. He wasn't just playing a character who was disappearing. He was actively searching for the point where Christian Bale just vanished, gone. He was literally trying to erase himself because he believed that real creative power only comes when you have the discipline to get your own personality out of the way. It's a kind of ego death, right? You deliberately become an empty vessel so that the character, the real story, can pour in.
So where does an idea this radical even come from? Well, it didn't just pop up out of nowhere. You have to go back, way back. It was actually forged in the fire and the total instability of his childhood. His background basically programmed him for transformation, long before Hollywood ever came calling.
Just let that number sink in. 15 moves, before he was 15. His entire childhood was just constant change, a no fixed address reality. What does that do to a kid? It teaches you one thing, and it teaches you fast. You survive by adapting. You learn to change your accent, change how you act. You become whoever you need to be to fit in at the new school, in the new town. He was always the outsider, so he learned early on that identity isn't some deep, stable thing. It's a toolbox. It's a set of masks you learn to wear to get by.
And this is where you see how that pressure cooker of a childhood really shaped him. First, you have all the moving around, which forced him to adapt. Then, bam, early fame hits him like a truck. He's just 13 when Empire of the Sun makes him a star, but it also turns his whole life into a product. Suddenly, he's the family breadwinner. And there's this famous story. An interviewer describes watching him as a kid just silently stabbing an orange with a pencil during the interview. Just think about that image. That's a kid who feels trapped, who hates the spotlight. It perfectly captures why he grew to distrust the media so much. So what did he do? He built a fortress inside himself. He started to systematically unlearn how to be Christian Bale for the public. He figured, okay, if I can't stop them from staring at me, I'll just give them someone else to stare at. And that's the pivot point. This is where he takes all that early trauma, that deep need to disappear, and turns it into something incredibly powerful, a real working philosophy. He stopped running from his identity, and instead, he learned how to use it, how to master it like a piece of equipment.
And this is the absolute core of his philosophy. He realized that clinging to any personal trait, your accent, your sense of humor, your fears, it just limits you. It boxes you in. Think about American Psycho. He didn't try to find a piece of himself in Patrick Bateman. No way. He built Bateman from the outside in. He studied the soulless, obsessive world of 80s Wall Street and constructed this perfect empty shell of a person. His own identity? It was just noise, a distraction. The self wasn't something to protect, it was a tool, something to be used, tweaked, or if needed, just left in the toolbox.
Which brings us to this next idea, radical servitude. Now this is a complete rejection of, well, modern celebrity culture, right? Where the actor's personality is the brand. For Bale, the goal is the exact opposite. It's to disappear completely into the work. It's this deep belief that the story is the boss, and he's just there to serve it. The thinking goes, your work is only as good as the amount of your own ego you're willing to just get rid of. So for him, a movie set wasn't a stage to be seen on, it was a laboratory for erasure.
And he makes this idea real, literally through something called physical displacement. He gets it. He knows that if he can physically become the skeletal Trevor Resnick in The Machinist, he doesn't have to act tired and paranoid. He just is. It's real. Or look at his role as Dick Cheney in Vice. That wasn't just about gaining 40 pounds and putting on some makeup. No, it was about mastering the specific way Cheney slouched, the way he carried that weight, even the way he breathed. He believes that if you can master the logic of a character's body, their mind will follow. And when that happens, we, the audience, have no choice but to believe it, because the physical truth is just right there in front of us.
So this whole philosophy, it's not just some abstract idea. He made it real. He made it practical. He built a strict, repeatable system to pull it off every single time. And that is what we call the Bale Protocol.
Basically, he treats his whole process like he's running a high-performance lab, and it's built on 4 pillars. Pillar 1, Biological Overhaul. I mean, we've talked about it, getting dangerously skinny for the fighter or packing on the pounds for Vice. He uses his own body, his own meat, instead of makeup, to force himself to live in that character's physical world. Pillar 2, the sensory audit. On set, his voice, his accent, his posture, none of it is his. He's famous for staying in character between takes, and it's not some method-acting gimmick. It's to make sure that the character's reality is never ever broken. Pillar 3, intense research. For the fighter, he literally moved in with the real Dickie Eklund for weeks. He wasn't just copying him, he was absorbing his rhythm, his energy, how his brain ticked. And finally, Pillar 4, foundational erasure. You know how private he is, right? That's not just him being shy, it's strategic, it's part of the system. By keeping a zero self-public profile, he makes sure that when you go see his movie, you don't have a bunch of baggage about Christian Bale. He's a blank canvas, every single time.
So all this work, this incredibly intense system, what's the payoff? Well, it was nothing less than completely rewriting the rules for what a leading man could be in the 21st century.
His legacy is just huge. He proved beyond a doubt that identity is a tool, not something you're stuck with. He absolutely demolished that old Hollywood idea that a star has to be relatable or likable, and he replaced it with this ideal of the unvarnished role, where the only thing that matters is the truth of the character. And of course, the ultimate validation? Winning the Oscar for The Fighter. That was the entire industry basically saying, okay, what this guy is doing isn't just crazy, it's high art. He really did become the architect of a new era, opening the door for a whole new generation of actors who care more about transformation than about their personal brand.
And this is where the story pivots. It stops being about him and starts being about us. Because really, this journey isn't just about acting, is it? It's a blueprint. It's a guide for any of us who feel stuck or limited by the story we've been told about who we're supposed to be.
So, I want you to ask yourself, what is your machinist mirror? Seriously, take a second. Look at your life, your job, your goals. What is that one fact about yourself that you've just accepted as a hard limit? You know that voice that says, oh, I'm just not a creative person, or I'm too introverted to be a leader, or I'm just not good with numbers. The Bale Protocol challenges you to look at that fact and see it for what it is. Not a permanent wall, but just starting material. It's a piece of equipment you can decide to take apart and rebuild to face whatever's next.
Because here's the bottom line. Your real power is tied to your ability to stop passively being something and start actively becoming something. See the difference? Being is static. It's a label. It's a story you bought into. Becoming, on the other hand, that's an action. It's a process that you control. The moment you decide you can dismantle and rebuild parts of yourself for a new challenge, you stop being a victim of yourself and you start becoming the master of the outcome.
So remember this, you are not a fixed trait. You are a builder. You are an architect of your own potential. The story of that kid with no fixed address who became the man who could build any identity he wanted, that's the whole point. And that is the ultimate takeaway for all of us. Identity is a choice, and your transformation, that's the code for your greatness.